Hello, everybody, and welcome to Choice Change and Choice Change and Action podcast. Must be the heat here in Europe. I'm your host, Simone Milasas, and today we have Rachel O'Brien and Troy Aldanmaz.
Yes.
That was the correct pronunciation, wasn't it, Troy?
That was perfect Turkish.
That was it. That was perfect. Yeah. How do you say your last name again, Troy?
It's Aldanmaz.
Aldanmaz.
That's it.
Aldanmaz. Troy Aldanmaz. It's just Troy and Rachel. It's Troy and Rachel. Let's face it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Rachel and Troy are in Ireland at the moment, and apparently it's 30 degrees there. And I am in Dea, Mallorca, and it's 32 degrees here. But there is a but. I have a pool outside, and I also have air conditioning. Whereas these two are in Ireland in 30 degrees heat with no air conditioning, and this is like a one-off day in Ireland, and they're like, what the hell? So thank you so much for being here, guys. I appreciate it very, very much.
For inviting us.
So this is our second time of trying this. So we're like, fingers crossed, internet is good. We got way into this podcast when I was at the castle, and it just kept like the internet was just like, this is not happening. So here we are today. So what we want to talk about is, well, I'm going to say X-Men, right? But I will address the fact that the majority of the world looks at X-Men as like it's the neurodivergence conversation and being neurodivergent. So when I say X-Men, everyone listening, I mean neurodivergence. When I say neurodivergence, I pretty much mean X-Men, okay? So, and what I would say, well, let's start with this. What does the X-Men world mean to you personally?
For me, we're so congruent with energy that when people like give you a point of view or a judgment or they tell lies, it really messes you up. It really messed me up without the X-Men tools. We'll walk away from conversations extremely confused. For me, I would say the biggest thing for me is I require a lot of clarity and a lot of information. And I'm extremely aware of where people hide things are. Yeah. So it's energetic congruence with what is actually going on.
Okay, so I'm just going to, so a couple of things here that pop up for me. Many years ago, I, working in Access Consciousness, and we were having meetings and, okay, this, and this. And Christopher Hughes, who is a mutual friend of all of ours, who is also very much X-Men, probably like on the autistic side of things, actually OCD, everything.
Yes.
I was just thinking, because both of us have this thing where we count everything. So, and we both know it. Like we go somewhere and we're like, hey, how many railings between there? And you're like 4 across, 9 down, 3 across. Like you just know it because you've just while there's a whole conversation going on, right? So, but he was working with us once, and he just started working with us, and he said, I don't know what you want. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, I go on these meetings and you guys are like, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's create. I don't know what you want. Can you tell me what you want? Can you give me like this guideline? And I get he was asking for some, almost like wasn't quite a to-do list, but it was this guideline of like, can you tell me what next? And I so get, because there was absolutely no linearity in his world, and he would hang up and just go, everything is available, and I don't know what you want me to choose or what you want me to contribute to. So is that also an energy that you would say comes up in your worlds when you deal with people?
Definitely. I know like so many meetings that we left, like I know like they got what I was saying and they actually had no idea like what I was talking about. And I get like, that's like another thing, like, as you said, like we're so not linear. And like, for me, that's where the X-Men conversation really contributed to me, because like I didn't acknowledge how different I was. I thought the way that I was functioning was normal because it felt normal to me, and it created so many, I'm going to say, conflicts with myself, with other people, and with X-Men. It really allowed me to know that I am different, and my different is not wrong. It's not something that's superior than other people, but my functionality is different, and what I require is different. And for me, like acknowledging that, it just created so much peace in my world and so much ease in my world, and allow me to have so much ease with the people around me too, because now like I don't have to project and expect of them to be like me or different than they are, or then I don't have to project and expect myself to be different. And we can actually come from the space of, okay, like this is what I require and this is what this person is required, and like how we can make this work. So it just allowed me to, I'm going to say, be functional actually the way that I am, because I was not functioning well when I was trying to fit into this reality and trying to be like other people.
God, that's so beautifully put, Troy. Podcast over. Boom, mic drop, done. No. But it was really beautiful. Yeah, it was really beautifully put. And I think a lot of people listening will identify with a lot of different aspects of what you just spoke about. So let's start with, I mean, gosh, we can all put our hands up with how many of us tried to pretend we were normal, knowing that we're not, you know. It's like, and you tried to fit in and you never fit and you will never fit. And I get the beauty of all of us, and the difference that we be is that we are different. So I want to take a couple of steps back, because we say X-Men, and you know it's from the movies. It's from all the X-Men movies and the amazing, beautiful capacities that these people had. And there's one scene in particular I remember where the parents were saying, "Can you take this away from him? Like, take it away." And I think this is absolute gold, because it wasn't about taking away their capacities. It was about how do you lean into it and acknowledge their capacities and not make them wrong, but also not make them, as you said, like superior and right. It's like, it's the difference that they be, but empower them to be all that they be and not make them wrong for something that they're not, is what I get those X-Men movies were, and are. And then we talk about, you know, neurodivergence. And I mean, this reality seems to love labeling everything. I think, you know, 50 years ago, there wasn't many labels for anything, and you just freaking dealt with whatever showed up, you know. And now there is a million labels. And I get where it's a contribution, and also where it becomes a hindrance and people start hiding behind something rather than actually discovering and exploring, you know, who they be and how they be and what they be and what that can be like. So with that, I wanted to start with either one of you, is when you sort of gauged, okay, yeah, I am different and I don't fit, and started to use the access consciousness tools, which we can talk about some of your favorite ones, etc., the access consciousness tools of empowering yourself to know that you are, you know, X-Men, neurodivergence, however we want to say it. What showed up for you? Like, what was it like? What did it become? What was the main difference?
Ladies first.
I like this. Ladies first.
It's a huge question for me. Initially, when I would say the big thing for me when I first came to Access, and what I mean by that is started using the tools and getting my bars run, the facilitators, you being one of them, were telling me that I was a gift, and I had been made wrong my whole life for not fitting in. Like my whole, what's wrong with Rachel? What's wrong with Rachel? You know? And so then I meet you and you're like, you're a gift. And I'm like,
she must be mad.
I'm like, wait, what? And so I would say one of the things is it took me a long time to recognize that the judgment that I was functioning from with myself wasn't even mine. Like it, like I was born without judgment. I know this. I know I'm happier when I'm not judging myself. And when I started Access, I was like crippled, like energetically. I'm going to say my relationship with myself was shot, as in I didn't have any value. It's quite phenomenal for me to wake up today and recognize that there's nothing wrong with me. I'm a very different functionality. I am extremely aware of the earth. I'm extremely aware of the environment. And to not judge that, honestly, is nothing short of miraculous from a girl who hated herself, and it wasn't even my hatred, you know? And so, yeah. So it's dynamically shifted my relationship with myself first and foremost. And the biggest thing for me, and for those listening, I'm a while down the road of using the X-Men tools. It's something that we talk about, what am I perceiving? And what am I perceiving is, what am I picking up in this environment? What am I aware of? And so as an X-Men, there's no separation in the way that you receive information. So if you're around anger, you go into that's your anger. Or if you're around sadness, you start crying, because there's no buffer before the tools. You're like this giant radio station picking up everything that's going on around you. And the one tool is this mind. Who does this belong to? Return to sender with consciousness attached. That one tool that allowed me to, I'm going to say, nurture my reality, nurture what was true for me. That one tool is a game changer in regard the way that I walk through the world. The awareness that I'm functioning from is not normal. We were in the castle years ago at a lies, lines, and manipulation class. It's an access consciousness class. Brilliant. And there was a lady, Marcia, and her mom walked through, and I went into the other room and got a translation device. And I turned and I said to you, I think Marcia's mom is looking for a translation device. She'd only walked in the room, you know, and next she came out looking for the device, and you turned to me and you went, that's awareness. And so when you ask me about what's changed for me with the access tools, it's the acknowledgement, you going, that's awareness. Whereas my whole life growing up in an Irish family would have been, don't say that. You're not allowed to say what's going on. Don't say what you're aware of. And so first the acknowledgement of the awareness, and then people don't say that it's possible that you can know someone walks in the door and what they require. I do know, you know, Troy knows. And so it's really one of the things that was massively eroded with me was self-trust in what I was aware of. And that has been the biggest transformation, that I now trust what I am aware of.
Wow. This is beautiful. And I want to say, you almost made me start crying, Rachel. As I said at the beginning, I'm in Mallorca, and I've just been in Europe doing a bunch of classes, and then came here. And there's this thing where you keep going. And then when you go somewhere and I don't have class, I don't have to call anyone, you know, all these sort of things. And so you have this like sense of relaxation. And as we arrived in Mallorca, there was so many people at the airport. It was like so full. It was so intense for me. And I was just like, fuck. And I was like, I need a Coke. I need sugar. I need something, because it was so intense. And then getting in the car, coming to where we're staying, and all these things. And it was probably like a good 24 hours, if not a little bit longer, that I was in this, I'm going to say like this down mood. And just this, you know, and my body was really hurting. And the next day, then I woke up and I actually listened to Dr. Dane Here, who we work with in Access Consciousness. He has something called Dive In, and every month, it's brilliant. Every month he has all these different processes that have been in the previous month, etc. And I put that on, and I'm not kidding, it was like 90 seconds in, and I just went, fuck. I'm so not normal. And I was trying to be normal. I was trying to do a holiday. I was trying to do this normal thing. And as soon as I actually realized it, my body stopped hurting. And I was like, this is phenomenal. Like, it was probably pretty hellish for at least 24 hours, you know, as hellish as you can get. But to have that acknowledgement, everything you just spoke about. So guys, if you're listening to this and anything that we are saying is slightly familiar, there are some tools, which Rachel just gave you a couple of those questions, and we will go through some of them. Please get that you're not normal. It's almost like one of the most dangerous things you can do to yourself is pretend you're normal when you're not, because you're going to end up all like twisted and hurting and like, and your head going crazy, and you think you're going crazy, and trying to find that somewhere where you're right, but always judging where you're wrong, and everything that is. So what I'm going to do right now, if you're listening to this podcast, everywhere that this is like, ringing your tune, destroy and uncreate everything that is, times a gazillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 100 shorts, boys, perverts, creations, spaces, and beyond. And that's the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement, which you can find out more on theclearingstatement.com. And now being here, I'm so, like, even today I went, God, I would, if I didn't know any better, I would say I'm super tired, but I'm not. I'm super relaxed. And being out on the sea and swimming in the sea and being in nature and all of that shows me a different perspective of me. It shows me more of me. And even using the tools, listening to classes, running a process, even the mantra of Access Consciousness, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. For me, it like navigates your whole universe to locate you, which is everywhere. That makes sense.
You said something brilliant. You said about you being in the airport. This is the other thing with X-Men or Divergence. I can sense energetically what that was like for you. Like we talk about a zone of awareness, like your whole zone was collapsed, you know?
Yeah.
And people will make a little kid wrong because they start screaming when they walk into an airport. An autistic child will sense everyone's everyone's point of view, everyone's judgment, everyone's space collapse, you know, and and this is then where it's really relevant for X-Men to have that space nurtured, like that space expanded out. It's phenomenal what I see as like the transformation that we can have in a nanosecond when space is gifted us, you know. And so it's really, if you're listening to this and you have a loved one that's neurodivergent, autistic, OCD, ADD, add space. It is such a kindness to their body, their nervous system, and to them, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, you are making me tear up here, because it's like the way you actually tapped into what was going on for me at the airport too. And my poor friend that I was with too, I was just being like a little like short, grumpy, frantic, like all hectic all in one moment. You know, like I said, when I went, I need a Coke, something, and I went to the shop and I saw Coke, and then I saw Maltesers and I grabbed them. Then I saw a protein bar and I was just like, dum, 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 dum. I don't know what's going on, but I know I need something of this. I got in the car and I was like, protein bar, okay. It was like, and just to also, because your bodies, let's look at that too, your bodies also require sometimes more salt, more sugar, more water, more of something than what is quote unquote normal or what you should be doing. It's like there's no should be doing. It's like, what is your body asking for to help you navigate in this way? Before I go to you, Troy, I want to add one more thing is, I mean, you guys do X-Men classes and they're brilliant. And there's a few Access Consciousness facilitators around the world that do that. And you've claimed, owned, and acknowledged the X-Men neurodivergence and give, you know, the tools and everything. It's been such a gift to so many people across the world. It's like so many people, not just hundreds, thousands. And I only just recently this year went, I think next one. And Christopher Hughes just cracked up laughing, and Gary was like, are you kidding me? And I went, yeah, I always thought that I was the one that was like, not.
When you said that, I literally, like, you have these eyes and you would sense a needle, Jane here says it, a needle in a haystack in a different universe, you know? And so for me, this was hilarious, you know?
I love that. A needle in a haystack in a different universe. That description, if you get what Rachel just said, then yeah, you're in.
Yeah.
Now, actually, Troy, I do want to go to you and talk about the question I originally asked, but I want to say this too, because I did a little bit of research and I was looking at what people Google and everything, just because I wanted to address some things with you guys. And there's apparently one thing that seems to piss people off is when someone says, oh, I think we all have a little bit of, you know, X-Men in us, a little bit of autism, a little bit of OCD, a little bit of ADHD, you know, whatever. I think that's almost true. So what's your point of view of that? Or what would you say to people? Like, I don't know, does that Like, because I get that there's like autistic, there's like, you know, right on the spectrum. I have met some autistic people who don't verbally talk, but man, do they energetically communicate in a different way. But so someone like myself, the first thing I would say is the counting. Like, I do count the most random shit. And then there's those other signs that I could say. But how would you describe that to people? What would you say is your point of view about everyone having a little bit of something?
Like, for me personally, like, I never been labeled from a doctor. So like, and again, like with everything that we were talking, like I get Access Consciousness has like inviting us to look at from a different perspective of what we decided is wrong and bad and is terrible, instead of, because like that was like one of the things that you ladies were talking about, like how aware we are. And with X-Men, like we are so aware, like not just the things that's been spoken, but even like the things that not spoken is so loud in our world. So if you have a child and like a doctor, like let's say like you go to a doctor and they said, oh, the child is ADHD or autism, like the moment that they say that, there's this like not just the word and the doctor's point of view, but then like that X-Men have the capacity to tap into the whole world and what is that and what they can do, what they can't do, what they should do, what they shouldn't do. Like they tap into this whole universe, and then like if they're not educated about their functionality, and I get that's what happened to most of the X-Men, like we generally have no information about how we function with ourselves and like with our bodies, and then that we tap into that limitations, and then like we make that real and true for us, until like for me that was like when, until I come to Access Consciousness going, hey, actually like this is just an interesting point of view. And like there is some like beautiful movies, and one of the movies that is pretty awesome if you haven't watched this is Temple Grandin. And her mom like had like Temple Grandin is autistic kid, and like her spectrum is, I'm gonna say more, what do you call that, intense, or
it's a different scale of, she didn't speak until she was 5. She saw, her mind worked in a very different way. She could measure things with her eyes. She had access to information. She was like highly functional. Now she is autistic. She didn't speak till she was 5. There were things in this reality she was considered dumb and stupid and uneducated. How'd you say? Not a, like you couldn't educate her, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like when her mom like got this news, she was like, no. Like the doctor was like, hey, like this is gonna be her future, and she was actually, no, like I don't take this as real and true. Like I know there's something different available and possible. And like the biggest gift that was to Temple was her willing to be interesting point of view about this. And I get like, for me, that's where the X-Men information is so valuable, because I know people like over and over again, like from the doctors or like the teachers, like if the kid is super active, like if it has a lot of energy, like they say it's ADHD and you have to get Ritalin and you have to calm them down. And like, and eventually like when they hear from so many people, they can actually like choose that and it not necessarily work for the kid or for them, instead of like really nurturing this capacity that the kid have, and maybe gifting them 20 things, 30 things, like the way that you were saying, like with holiday, like for us, like just sitting in one spot and like doing nothing.
Not gonna work.
We went to buy a couch today, you know, and we were buying it off a lady in the other side of the city. And anyway, we sat on the couch and the two of us looked at each other and we recognized we actually haven't sat on our couch for probably like maybe weeks, and we're always up to something, you know.
Yeah.
And that's, we both have been made so wrong. How come we can't relax, Rachel? I've heard people say to Troy, calm down and chill.
Yes.
Calm down, chill. Calm down and chill when he knows his energy is required to make things work. You
and
know
actually,
what I
that
mean?
is like calming down for us. That is like relaxing for us. Like I know, like I personally, I'm not able to relax if I know like there's things required to be moving. Like for me, relaxation is actually going there and moving those stuff, and then I'm relaxed and I'm happy.
Yeah.
Oh God, this is so beautiful. Thank you so much for saying that too. You know, my mother, two things I want to just bring up, because I completely forgot about this. I really didn't speak till I was about 5 years of age, but my mother took me to a couple of doctors because she thought I was deaf and dumb. And because I used to just walk into a room with my big blue eyes and just stand there and probably freak her the fuck out and just stand there and look at her. So she thought something was wrong with me. And I remember Gary Douglas said to me one day, he said, nope, he said, you were just coming back to this earth and going, seriously, I'm here again, and just watching and observing everyone. And then about the age of 5, you went, okay, I'll talk now, you know, and then started talking, which I did, you know. And then the second thing that you just brought up too was my mother used to say to me all the time, you have no idea how to relax. You know, you have no idea how to relax. And of course I went, oh, I'm wrong. I have no idea how to relax. And then I was smart enough to ask myself and looked at it and went, what's her definition of relaxation? And I watched her, and she would watch TV for hours on end. And this was back in the day where you had, you know, VHS recorders. She would record another channel whilst watching one channel so that later she could watch the other channel thing. And I went, I have no idea how to relax. If that's your definition of relaxation, I have no idea how to relax. Mine is really different. So I just want to say, everyone out there too, it's like, be your relaxation, whatever that is. Like for me too, I found ever since 2020, like during COVID, I taught myself how to cook a lot more. And so I find cooking or baking or anything like that is totally relaxation for me too. Like it's got this action in it, and it's got smells in it. It's got, you know, just tasting things, like trying to work out how things go and how it all goes together and what it ends up being. And I change it all the time. And that's a hell of a lot of relaxation for me as well. So please, everyone listening, have a look at what relaxation is for you. I love when we talked about it at the beginning, it's like, you know, this is not about you being normal, because you're not normal. And then Troy, you beautifully put about how this reality tries to put a definition on one of these quote unquote labels. But that's all that's doing, is going, okay, so you're not normal, now you're this. What if there was no definition of you ever, and you never, that was not wrong, and you never had to find out like who, what, where, when, why, how you are ever, because you're constantly changing, and that's okay. So everything that is times a good thing, and right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 100 shorts, boys, proverts, creations, bases, and beyond.
And as an X-Men, you require a lot of information, and you have a much bigger scope of a reality.
Can you expand on that? That's a really cool point. Can you expand on it?
Well, one of the things with X-Men is they're so aware that they'll walk into a building and they'll know what went on in that building a couple of 100 years ago. You know, they will, their scope of reality is not only Simone Milasas having an experience in Mallorca in 2026. That's only a tiny frame. It reminds me of those the movies, and it's a big film role. Their scope of reality goes back to everything that has occurred on that land when you walk in there, and all the possibilities that can be available in the future. And so that's where a definition and a conclusion or a completion is very dangerous points of views, because we function from where the autism is the question that nobody has been, you know. So we function from a much, like it's not, here's your definition to function this reality. No, here's a different scope of reality that has a massive communion with the earth and a capacity to be something that actually is going to create greater for mankind, actually, like in what's true, the functionality. And so it's a much, you can't put it into this reality or box it. It's a much bigger scope of reality.
You know, you just I guess tapped me on the shoulder about how I always look at history. Like even at high school, I studied like 5 different histories, like ancient history, modern history, Australian history, like all these different histories. And every time I come somewhere I go, what happened here before? Like, this is wild. And we went swimming in the sea yesterday, and we climbed into these caves, and there was all these carvings in there, like really old carvings, like, and it was wild. And I just put my hands on them, and I was like, wow. And I just asked for them to have the sense of space that whatever it is that they were there for, like, can you be that? And everything that's been projected at you, like, to destroy and uncreate that, as I put my hand on it, etc. And then
it's enormous.
As everybody,
as everyone does when they go swimming in the cave.
Well, I know. And then we got back on the boat, and the guy said, the skipper went, "So what's in the cave?" He said, "I've never been in there." And I was like, "Really? You've never been in caves?" And I was like, "Okay." But I told him about this. I know we are so different, aren't we? We have to claim or acknowledge the difference, because I also get, as we acknowledge the difference, more magic shows up and more miracles show up, and the earth and the land and everything shows you, like, it invites you to be such a big part of it as well. And also that balancing of the earth, like, where can we be on the planet that creates the balancing of the earth?
Yeah.
So Troy, can you just give us a little download as well of what it was like for you? You mentioned, like, it was a bit difficult growing up, and then, like, discovering access consciousness tools and where you are now, etc., and anything you've got to gift us with.
Yeah, like actually, like, until university, like, everything, actually, I'm gonna say, like, high school, like, everything was, like, easy for me. And then, like, when I come to high school and when I go to university, like, things become, like, really, really difficult. And, like, in university, like, I had the most difficulty in my life. Like, I go to medical school, and, like, they were asking me to, like, memorize a lot of information, and I had the point of view, the only way that I can do that is to sit down and focus. And I would literally, like, spend, like, 10 hours, like, sitting down in front of a book and, like, reading. And the end of the day, like, I would just remember, like, 10% of it and 15% of it. And I was like, what is wrong with me? And, like, I would look at all the people around me. And I get, like, with X-Men, the other part that creates a lot of difficulty is, like, people are not congruent, and we're so aware of the energy. And at the time, like, I didn't have that information, so I would believe what people were telling me, and I would try to do, like, what they were doing, as though, like, that would work for me. And, like, it was not working, and I was, like, pushing myself, and, like, I was judging myself a lot. And it was just not, like, creating, like, what I knew was possible. And, like, later on the line, like, after using the tools of access consciousness, like, I actually discovered, like, for me, like, focusing is a method that doesn't work. But when I'm putting my energy onto maybe, like, 20-30 projects at the same time, like, it's so much more ease, and actually everything starts to work for me, and my life started to grow, and I actually started to thrive. And I guess, like, for me, that's the beautiful part of the access consciousness tools. I'm just, like, so grateful, because I just remember, like, when I look at, like, 9 years ago, like, I was, like, judging myself constantly, like, making myself wrong for literally everything. And the tools that I had was, like, avoid to be wrong, try to be right, be a good person, don't lie. Like, all of the tools was, like, against me. And now, like, I have the tools that allow me to utilize my energy in a way that's going to work for me, and actually create what I know is possible and available. And I get, that's for me the invitation for the X-Men. And, like, with all the classes that we're facilitating, it's just so beautiful to, like, see people, like, where they decided they're wrong, and, like, once they take a different perspective, like, how quick that can change. And for me, that's the magic, that you can actually change your point of view, and as a result of that, your whole life changes with it. It's so cool.
That's very, very true. I mean, like, I told you my Mallorca story, and then I think it was yesterday morning or the day, I can't remember now. And when I just went, hey, I've had this awareness, and I spoke it out, and then I went, holy shit, everything just changed. And you can change in a nanosecond. I love when you said, Troy, that the tools were working against you, but what I heard really was the rules were working against you.
Yeah.
Like, the rules of this society, this reality, this is what you're supposed to do. You're this age, you're supposed to. And seriously, fuck that. It's like, choose what works for you. And now you have tools that work for you. which is absolutely brilliant and beautiful. So what's one of your favorite go-to tools that you say? I know you spoke about who does this belong to and is this mine, Rachel? What is something else that you guys would suggest to people listening to this that are going, holy shit, they're talking about me?
I would say one of my favorite ones is what am I aware of? And sometimes, so let's say you talked about being in the airport. And yesterday,
You're trying to give me PTSD, bring me back to Palma Airport. No, I'm kidding.
You know, what am I aware of? For me, is a demand to acknowledge that actually I'm aware of the environment and I'm aware of my surroundings. And I had a conversation with someone yesterday where they told me 22 lies in 5 minutes.
I would say more like 22,000 lies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so years ago, I would have been like, I'm crazy, I'm wrong, you know? And this, whereas yesterday I was like, I'm aware that this person, every time they open their mouth, tells lies, you know? And now, what am I aware of? You're really reaching out and demanding that you say what's true for you and acknowledge what's really going on. And when people have a lot of hidden agendas, when you say, what are you aware of? You might be aware of, this person wants this from me. They need this from me. They're projecting this from me. And so with that, what am I aware of? And clear all the projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections on you. For when someone has a projection on you to do something, we pick up on it like a horse, like you do a lot of horse riding. And if your horse, like if you don't see someone coming towards you or they're off in the distance, the horse immediately, like, you know, it's aware. And so that's the awareness of energy coming into your system, you know, into your space. And so for me, that projection, you've got to, I would say for me, I really got to be aware of people's projections. Otherwise I can become the projection super fast.
And I'm going to add to this too, because there's so many, like that one question of what am I aware of? I actually started using this since we were in Portugal. Feels like 10,000 years ago, but a few weeks ago. That's what happens actually. Time is actually something that is created in order to define you and create what I know I've spoken about in my podcast before, the mesh reality, which is that matter, energy, space, and time. So you start to look at what matters. You start to judge things when you are looking at the timing of things rather than being aware and the space that is available for you to have anything and everything and have infinite choice. Yeah. So one of the things I started looking at was anytime, like say if, like we talk about Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, and Dr. Dane here, anytime they sort of poked me on something or they asked me a question about something that was like sort of not where I was heading, and they were not judging me. They're asking me a question to get me to have a look at something. But what I had done for so long, especially being born into with my parents, like my father was amazing. My mother was absolute like asshole. And so she just always, I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. So I was constantly, even as a little kid, trying to find where I was right. Yeah. Based on the projection of my mother telling me I'm wrong. So only just recently, when I went to anytime I go to the wrongness of me, now the first thing I do is ask the question, what am I aware of? Yeah. Because it's somewhere that I'm trying to prove something or get something right or control something, or I am aware of, as you said, other people's projections. So that for me has given me so much freedom. If I judge for 1 nanosecond I'm wrong, what am I aware of? What am I aware of? What am I aware of? And I might not actually have a cognitive answer to that, but asking that question creates a space that allows something to melt, to dissipate, to pivot, to, you know, flip it, like to change the direction of where you're heading, which is pretty much nowhere good.
Exactly.
And
Great.
Troy, do you have something with a tool or a question that you would give out
Yes.
to the listeners?
I was looking at like which tool would be a contribution actually, which will be cool. And for me, like one of the tools I use a lot is like if I choose this, what my life be like in 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years. And if I don't choose this, what will my life be like in 5, 10, and 15 years? And like for me, that's where our awareness, because I know like most of us like made our awareness as a curse or something that we should get rid of. Actually, it can be a contribution because we are aware of the future and the choices that we're going to make and what would that create. And actually that's when like it becomes advantageous, because in this reality like everything is linear, and like it tells us, oh, like don't go to, like if you're A, don't go to B unless you don't know the whole road. And like with X-Men, like we don't function from the energy. We're like, oh, like am I going to go to B, so let me go from here and let me go there, let me go there, let me go there, and then like you're just ending up being on B, and you're like, this is easy, this is awesome. And like for me, that's like it makes it beautiful, like where we actually engage with the whole universe and engage with our awareness of the future that allows us and contributes to us to create like what I know is possible. And as you were saying, like it takes us beyond time, it takes us what matters, and it truly allows us to, like for me, to create magic in my life. That's like for me, that's I would love to live like that. And
And
yeah.
he's OCD about that question. I love it.
Yeah.
It's like
I love it. And I want to say too, because I can hear some people listening going, but if I choose this, where will my life be in 5 years, 10 years, 15? Does that mean I have to stick to it? And it's like, no, you don't. It just, it shows you, like it shows you a different picture. It shows you a different possibility of choosing this and where your life will be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. You know, you can even play with 50 years or 500 years, to be honest, if you really want to, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not about like getting a cognitive answer, but it's getting a sense of like what would that create? Does it have like more space? Does it have more sense of relaxation, more sense of expansion, or does it have a sense of contraction? And you can play with this with little things. Like that's what I did in the first time, like when you're going to buy a thing, or maybe if somebody's asking you to go out for a walk or a tea or a coffee, they're going, hey, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5, 10, 15 years? And see what would that create, and like choose, play with it, and like see what it creates for you. And like that's the beauty of the tools of access consciousness. Like we're not saying like, oh, like all of this is right and this is like something that you should use. No, like play with it, see what it creates for you and what can open up for you.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely beautiful. I'm so grateful to be talking to both of you. Where can people find out more about both of you, your classes, etc., and what you have coming up next?
Great question. I will say from Rachel's website and my website and Access Consciousness website. Like Rachel's website is rachelbryan.org, and with me too, it's like troyaldanmaz.org. So that's easy. And check it out, X-Men Access Consciousness. There's some information there, and actually we're doing some series of lives with different Access X-Men facilitators. It's just so beautiful to see like everybody else's perspective, because we're so different. And that's the beauty of it. Like all of us are so different, and we don't have to be alike. And like what would it take for you to find out what that different is for you?
Yeah, and this has been total relaxation, and I'm going to say find out what that difference is that you are from relaxation. Not from an expectation, not from a projection, not from pleasing somebody else, not from having to do anything, just from like, wow, I mean, if you're listening to this and you've come this far, you chose to be born here in this body, in this lifetime. What for? Like, come on, let's go, you know, let's amp it up. And it's like, let's have way too much fun. Don't listen to the noise. What can we be in the planet? And a lot of what you guys have been talking about too, for me, is very much trusting you, trusting your body, and trusting the universe, and letting consciousness lead you by being in question.
Yeah.
Boom.
Anything else you guys want to add before we say goodbye?
Thank you so much for inviting us. It was so much fun to be here, and thanks so much for being in the world.
And thank you so much for acknowledging that you're an X-Men.
Yeah, you get it when you get it. You hear it when you hear it. You choose it when you choose it. What can I say? Thank you so much, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you, everyone listening. And please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget, if you want to actually see our beautiful faces, you can go to my YouTube channel. You can subscribe there. We have lots of new stuff coming out there as well. We're going to put everything that we mentioned in the show notes, so you can, look at that down below, and also Troy and Rachel's details to contact them on social media and their websites, etc. And if you're listening, and like I said, you've reached this far, thank you for being here, and thank you for being you, and have the most freaking amazing, beautiful, wonderful day. How the hell did we get so lucky? What else is possible?
Exactly, truly.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.